The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask for Candy, where we talk about healing, self-care, love, sex, relationships, and what it takes to be amazing on the daily. Who I am Candace Harper, lovecoach.com, honey. My purpose with this podcast is to create healthy romantic relationships all around the world, especially now that there is a worldwide health crisis and people are in need of love and connection now more than ever. But before we get to that, I'd like to shout out the Armed Radio people who are listening all over the world. Global Armed Radio, global, everywhere in this whole entire world where people are on lockdown and trying to stay safe and healthy and fighting a pandemic. So shout out to all the peeps all around the world who are listening. I want you to not forget to subscribe to Ask for Candy on Anchor as well, because then, you know, Mama can add up her listeners, maybe make a little change. And you can subscribe to Ask for Candy on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Ask for Candy Podcast. And you can just search Ask for Candy Podcast on YouTube and find us. I'm catching up. I don't have all the latest podcasts on YouTube yet, but I'm working on it. When you subscribe, even if you're busy on a Thursday night, you will never miss a show. So, you know, you want to be part of the circle. You want to know what's happening. You want to know what's going on. You don't want to miss shows. And sometimes on Thursday nights, you might be doing something else. And I understand. That's why I got you. So subscribe on YouTube. Also, we're on Patreon. So if you want to become a patron of the show, just click our link in our post description. Now, I always say that wherever you're listening, you should be able to get back to the link somehow. But if you go to Patreon and you look for Ask for Candy, the podcast, you can become a patron and get access to early content, first dibs on any of our perks, offers, or giveaways, and 30% off any private coaching package should you be interested. Also, I don't usually ask you to follow so early in the show, but I'm about to announce a $50 giveaway contest. I know I've been saying that for the last few shows, but it's coming. It's about to happen soon, but I want you to be eligible for it. So you got to follow me on Instagram at Candy Love Coach and at Ask for Candy. Both of those accounts. Follow me. I'm waiting on you. I'm not going to announce it until you go ahead and do it. So you might as well just pull the trigger and get over there. Also, you can email me at askforcandypodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments or anything that you just want to relay to me, if you want to express your undying love and devotion, if you want to just ask me why I say some of the things that I say, I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it on the show. Any question that you answer any question that you ask could be answered in a later broadcast. So email askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. Those of you who've been listening, you know that I am a relationship coach, a workshop facilitator, and a professional matchmaker with Talkify. And if you've never heard of Talkify, it's an amazing digital service where you can hire a matchmaker to do all the sifting and the vetting on your behalf. For those of you out there who are frustrated with the world of dating, that's what Talkify is here for. That's what I am here for as a matchmaker. And it's especially great for people who struggle with initiating contact or simply just picking the right partner. Matchmaking and relationship coaching is my zone of genius, honey. And the best part about it is that week to week, I get to grow and learn myself as I interact with people around the most intimate part of their lives. I get to learn myself and I get to learn myself. Around the most intimate part of their lives, I get to meet and nurture new clients. I get to screen possible dating candidates for them. I get to design programs and activities that deepen their ability to get to know each other. We don't get to do as many of the activities as we used to because everybody's on lockdown. So, you know, if you guys have been listening, I've been talking about the video dating. But what I like to do is themes with my video dating, like cocktails and conversation, or brunch and conversation, or dinner and conversation, or snacks and conversation, whatever. You can theme it to be whatever you want to. Sometimes people get really creative and really fun. You might have fun stuff you want to wear, eat, drink, bring, decorate your house with, whatever. It's fun. It's free for all. And it's the new normal of dating. But what's most important is that I get to be a part of what supports the healthy beginnings and the sustainability in a relationship. And building sustainably healthy relationships. I get to be a part of that. For so long, I've been a coach for 8 years, and for so long, I've sort of been on the tail end of that, where it's starting to break down and people are wondering why they ever got together. And I'm guessing that some of you that are at home quarantined with someone right now, you're wondering if things would have turned out differently if you initially would have had someone there to help you choose in the beginning. Somebody who could, be your go-between, your vetter, your, I don't know, somebody who knows you better than you know yourself, or at least can see you from the outside and match you with someone that you have some compatibility with. That's what I do. That's what I love. And I like being at the beginning in the hopes of creating something that doesn't end up in breakdown, or at least creating something where people start out knowing that it's going to ebb and flow, and that there are tools and that there are ways that you can have a relationship last a very, very, very long time, and that it doesn't have to end in ugliness and divorce and, all that stuff we've all been through. The good news is that if you are in quarantine with someone right now and it's going really badly and you're starting to think about divorce, we got Jada Pinkett Smith is even out here talking about how she didn't even know this man after 20 some years together. So I know y'all are out there going through all kinds of stuff around realizing things about your partner maybe you didn't realize before, realizing things about yourself, starting to see things in a completely different way maybe than you saw them before, more bickering than ever, just being really confronted with the type of person that you ended up partnering yourself up with. It's never too late to turn the ship around. And this pandemic, this lockdown, all of this is an opportunity to turn things around. And maybe it means you're going to be together, and maybe it means you're ultimately not going to be together, but it can go peacefully if you're open and you're willing. And you can turn the ship around if both people are willing and able. So that's the good news. But today, I want to turn my focus onto the singles, all my single people out there. I being one of them, I'm actively dating. I'm out there in the trenches. I always say I'm coaching and sometimes on the court. I video date. I, meet new people. I'm in my own sort of processes with that. And I also use the skills that I teach and the skills that I've learned and my continued growing to have that be the most pleasant, desirable process as possible. I absolutely love it. And my intention is to only be doing things that I absolutely love, whether in or out of a partnership. And that's what I want for you as well. But for my singles out there, especially the ones who've not had any sex since this pandemic began, since these lockdowns started, or maybe even a lot longer, depending on how you were living before lockdown. Full disclosure, full confession, I made a decision not to have sex after my last relationship ended. I made a decision that sex was off the table for a while because I wanted to be on my own, do some healing. I want to do some work around that. I wanted to get to know what I like, and do an exploration that didn't require another person. I just didn't want that complication. And then boom, a couple years went by and then all of a sudden we're in lockdown. And so, it's not such a safe thing right now. And I was watching a HuffPost video the other day and a man was talking about the end of casual sex. Dun, dun, dun. And clearly because it now carries a much higher risk than ever, casual sex might be dead. I know that sounds so dramatic. I mean, maybe just at least for now, we don't know ultimately what things are going to be like. And it's not that it's an impossibility. It's just it presents a much, much higher risk. And you got to think about, is my life truly worth it? Much like we had to think about in the era of, HIV. People don't die so much from HIV anymore. However, there was a time when it first sort of broke on the scene where people had to really give thought to, is my life worth this casual sex encounter? And I think this is even on obviously a much, much larger scale because the death is much more imminent. And, there's just no way of knowing how your body will be able to navigate if you come down with COVID-19. I'm not into the science. I don't profess to be a scientist. I'm not a clinician. I only know what I've heard. And lately what I've heard is that, there's no way to really predict. Yes, there are people that are more vulnerable than others, but there have been people of all ages who have passed away from this disease. So the question is there, is my life really worth casual sex with anyone I meet? I mean, if I were walking into a bar, obviously we're not doing that these days, and the only other person there was Jason Momoa, and he was single and wanted to have sex with me, I might second guess my decision, but I would have to say I can't risk my life. I cannot risk my life for what might be, however many moments of pleasure that might come from having sex with Jason Momoa. I wouldn't want to risk my life on behalf of that. So that's something that as single people, besides the possible isolation you might be in, or, maybe you're holed up with some family, which can sometimes be worse than the isolation when you're single, wherever you might be in the midst of all of this, the idea that casual sex is no longer so easily on the table, if at all, might be something that is resonating with you. So I thought it might be a good idea for us to talk about it. Let's talk about it. So obviously, wherever you live, you want to be sure to pay attention to what regulations are in place wherever you are. However, I did a lot of research on nyc.gov. I feel like since NYC is the hot spot of America, that following what nyc.gov puts out, recommended by the CDC, is worthwhile, even if you're in the midst of, Minnesota or, wherever you might be, where it's still a little bit loose. I think as far as, how you're navigating your sex life, even if your area is not a hot zone, it's in everyone's best interest to be following as much social responsibility and precaution as they possibly can. I know there's people out there that disagree with me. They think it's not that big of a deal. And, there's a lot of other issues around having to be at home right now and not making money. And, I know there's people out there protesting, staying at home and all that controversy, which is insane. And of course, it's only in this country that there's that controversy. But with that said, I think as far as sexual activity, what nyc.gov put out makes a lot of sense as far as what they know so far. And, a lot of what they put out, I think, is recommended by the CDC. And so because it's the hot spot, I think all of us sort of following the NYC guidelines, what can it hurt, honey? What can it hurt you to follow some tight guidelines in this particular situation? What can it hurt you to just, tighten up on the rules, buckle it up a little bit, close your legs for a little while, and just see what else can happen? So what I want to talk about today is the actual benefits. Let's take the moral story off the table. So we're not talking about sexuality and morality, about whether it's right or not to have casual sex. Let's just take that off the table, because it's a stupid conversation and it could be a whole nother show where we talk about, value and sex and what that really means because someone has had sex, or whether they have sex, or whether someone values you if you've had sex, or if you have sex with them too soon. All of that stuff, let's just push that aside, because obviously there's a whole bunch of us out there who are having casual sex. And there's a whole bunch of us out there who have been single for a while and are regularly having casual sex. And there's a whole bunch of us out there who would rather be in a committed relationship, but are taking casual sex because that's what's available. And we all want love and human connection and physical contact and things like that. So some of us are out there taking what we can get, which is why I personally went on sort of a celibacy journey, because I just didn't want that layer. It wasn't a moral decision. It was a emotional intelligence decision. So I think, with that said, a lot of amazing, miraculous things can come out of sex being taken off the table, that it's not such an easy, accessible thing when we're actually guarding our lives. I think there is, and I hate to be the Pollyanna girl. Actually, I don't hate to be that girl, because that's who I am. I'm all about silver linings. I think that there is a lot of opportunity in what is possible with sex off the table. But first, let's talk about what nyc.gov put out. They put out a PDF about coronavirus disease, COVID-19, and sex and sexuality. So they say they started with all New Yorkers should stay home and minimize contact with others to reduce the spread of COVID-19. I think that's everybody everywhere, even though a lot of people are violating that. But can you have sex is the question, right? So here are some tips that nyc.gov put down to enjoy sex and avoid spreading COVID-19. So they say, know how COVID-19 spreads. So obviously, if you can get it from somebody standing 6 feet away from you, and some people say even further away from you, you can still get it. If you can get it that way, you certainly can get it if you're French kissing somebody, right? So we got to use a little bit of common sense. You can get COVID-19 from a person who has it. That's what the document says. Common sense. Those of us with a couple brain cells, we know this to be true. So if I can get it from somebody who's far away, obviously I can get it from somebody who's close. It spreads through the saliva and the mucus and all of that stuff. And we all know all those fluids that come around depending on how you have sex. I'm not telling all my business, but there's usually fluid involved. So the nyc.gov document says that there's still a lot to learn about COVID-19 and sex. But they do also say that it has been found in the feces of people who are infected with the virus. So COVID-19 will end up in your poo. So those of you who are out there into butt stuff, take heed, I would say. I mean, all of us should be taking heed, but if you're into the butt stuff, something to think about. COVID-19 has not yet been found in semen or vaginal fluid. However, for the most part, most of us out there are coming in contact with the saliva long before we're coming in contact with the semen or vaginal fluid. I don't know how you're out there having sex. I only know how I'm out here having sex and other people who tell me things. And, I think the likelihood is by the time you get to semen or vaginal fluid, you have already exchanged whatever needs to be exchanged in order to get COVID-19. They do say that we know that other coronaviruses do not efficiently transmit through sex. And I'm guessing they mean sex itself. So other coronaviruses, I think that includes like SARS and MARS and MERS or whatever, some of the other ones. But as far as this one is concerned, they're basically saying there's not a whole lot that they know except social distancing is the only way to not come in contact with it with another person. Another thing they recommend is to have sex with people who are close to you. So yeah, obviously if you're quarantining with your man or your woman, or, whoever you quarantine with that's of age and consenting, then that's going to be the safest person to be having sex with, especially if that's the one you were having sex with before the outbreak occurred. So you are your safest sex partner. They also say masturbation will not spread COVID-19, especially if you wash your hands and any sex toys with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before and after sex. I mean, that one, pretty self-explanatory, but I still think that that's something, for those of us who masturbate, and I'm happy to admit that I do because I think it's a very healthy thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And, it's not something that I feel bad for myself because I'm single. If I masturbate, I don't feel naughty. I don't feel like it's wrong. I feel like even if I'm in a relationship, I do it. It's a very, very healthy thing. But we have to be really cognizant that the hand washing is very important. For me right now, I'm not going too many places. I did get a chance to go out to the beach on Saturday, and that was nice just to get out. That was my one, since we've been on lockdown, my one sort of venturing out just for the sake of being outside and being away from the house. And I know that the social responsibility is to stay home, but I was in a place where I could socially distance for the most part. And it was an opportunity to just get some sun and recharge and rejuvenate. But I'm totally digressing. The fact was, I was out all day, and coming back and washing my hands, washing anything that comes in contact with me was very important because I haven't been out all day, and I was out all day in a time when we're supposed to be locked down. Other times I go to the grocery store. I'm touching things at the grocery store. I walk through, and I haven't started wearing gloves yet, which I probably should when I go to the grocery store, but I've touched some things. So of course I'm going to wash my hands before I do anything, sexual with myself when I get home. So it sounds like it's a no-brainer, but you want to just be cognizant of all these possibilities while you're safely navigating your sex life during this pandemic. So the next safest partner besides yourself is someone that you live with. Of course, having close contact, including sex, with only a small circle of people helps prevent spreading COVID-19. Have sex only with consenting partners. Yes. Yes, that must be said. It's a shame that in this day and age it must be said. But yes, have sex only with consenting partners that you live with. As far as the next safest. So, you're already together, you're already swapping whatever you're swapping. So, and if you already know that both of you don't have it, or if you're close enough that one gets it, you're going to get it, or whatever, what goes on in your home goes on in your home. You should avoid close contact, including sex, with anyone outside your household. So this is where it gets a little hairy for anyone who is in this pandemic and dating, getting to know people, trying to navigate not being alone, not wanting to stay single, even though we have no it's completely uncertain how long we're going to be in this lockdown, right? So there's no guarantee of when this is going to be over. And yet there's still that desire to want to get intimate with someone on an emotional and physical level, or start a relationship during the pandemic. Now, you guys know I've been matchmaking people. So I have people meeting all the time who've never met before until all of this pandemic stuff. And so this is where it gets a little bit hairy, because it's not socially responsible to rush into any sort of sexual contact with someone that you meet during this time of flattening the curve and, staying locked down. It's just not the socially responsible thing to do. So what they recommend, what NYC.gov recommends, is that if you do have sex with others, have as few partners as possible. And I think they put that in because they feel like people are going to want to have sex no matter what. And that's understandable because it's natural and it's good. But I go back to the recommendation of, what about the exploration of how things can go, especially if you want a relationship, if you want a connective relationship, what you can actually build, what you can have happen in your life based on leaning into sex being off the table. Excuse me, I just had a pork chop for dinner. And it was garlicky. Anyway, yeah, let's take sex off the table and explore how can my love life possibly go if that's not even a factor. So they also say, if you usually meet your sex partners online or make a living by having sex, consider taking a break from in-person dates. Do video dates, sexting, or chat rooms may be an option for you. So, that kind of balances it out a little bit. If you are someone who's usually having casual sex, and casual sex is your thing, and that's what you want to be doing, and that's what you want to, I do think taking a little bit of a break, utilizing video, I don't know how safe and secure it is to be on Zoom with your vajayjay and all your stuff hanging out and sharing that and having video sex. But I don't know, we're human, and sometimes we have urges, and sometimes things want, we want things to happen. And if you're someone who makes a living by having sex, then that might be some way that you can have people Venmoing you, or, putting it in your Cash App, and you never even have to touch them. Sexting, chat rooms, however, you guys know how to set that up. That's a whole separate show anyway. What I want to talk about is how to develop a relationship within all of this pandemic stuff for people who actually want to develop a relationship. The people who've always been having casual sex, and that's your thing, and that's what you kind of want to maintain, I think it's worthwhile to do a little bit of self-reflection for this time while you're keeping yourself safe, if that is really what you want to maintain. Have you been doing that because that's all you want for yourself? Or have you been doing that because that's all you think you deserve, or all you think that you can get in this life? This might be a good opportunity to just give yourself a little break from all of that, all those harsh sexual urges that have you moving from person to person. And this is not a judgment, because like I said, we've taken morality off the table. We're just talking about workability. And get really flat with yourself. Is that truly what I want to be doing? And if that is the case, then yeah, you got to take a break for a while and still be socially responsible. So they also say take care during sex, which, those of us who lived through the beginning of the AIDS epidemic and, all of that, and those who have been born since then, whether we practice it or not, or whether we had been practicing it or not, we know that there is such a thing as safer sex, where you have to protect yourself and use condoms and all of that stuff. So they're saying kissing can easily pass COVID-19, which makes sense through the saliva. Avoid kissing anyone who is not part of your small circle of close contacts. Rimming on the mouth and anus might spread COVID-19. Remember, they said it is in the feces. Virus and feces may enter your mouth. Once again, those of you who are into butt stuff. Condoms and dental dams can reduce contact with saliva or feces, especially during oral or anal sex. So, I think that the condom usage is a good way to, as you're sort of slowly segueing into a sexual relationship with someone after taking a lot of other socially responsible precautions, obviously you still want to be practicing safe sex. And that's going to be part of what I talk about too. And washing up before and after safe sex, they say, is now more important than ever. So always with the washing of the hands, always with the soap and water. And there was a substance, I watched a video today where a doctor was talking about Hibiclens. And that's not a bad idea if you're someone who is sexually active or, is looking to create a lot of sexual activity during this pandemic, is to have a substance like that. It's like a soap. It's what they use before surgeries, like washing your hands with something like that. What else do they say? They say to skip sex if your partner's not feeling well. I feel like, that one's pretty self-explanatory, but I know there's people out there. It's like, we're humans, right? We're very biological creatures, and we tend to follow our urges, and we tend to want what we want and take a lot of risks, which is why there was an AIDS epidemic in the first place, which is why there are STDs, and STDs are so common, because we are willing to risk ourselves, in a lot of cases. And there'll be people out there who judge, people who are like, I never risk myself. But, for the people out there that do, even if you are sheltering in place with someone, if your partner is not feeling well, it might be a good idea to avoid sex, and especially kissing, for a little while until they're tested or they're feeling better, or they've followed the protocols, right? Or they've gone, 3 days without a fever. Don't quote me on that. Definitely do the research for yourself. But, if you have someone on your hands who's not feeling well, or if you're not feeling well, don't be kissing on anybody. Right? I don't know. It's a hard thing. Like, the more I talk about it, the more I'm thinking about, like, it's definitely challenging. It's challenging. For me, like I said, I chose to take a while of celibacy, so I sort of have been just kind of going with that since then. But, for those of you who are out there, I know that a lot of times, when you are in a relationship, sometimes sex is sort of the thing that, like, obviously it's not the thing that saves the relationship, but it's a reconnector sometimes. It's a stress reliever, yeah, it's, you just got to be smart about it. If nobody's feeling well, or if one is not feeling well, then it's not the go-to. It's not going to be possible, at least not safely. You're going to be taking a big risk in getting it. But that is not what I want this show to be about. It's not about, warning you guys to be afraid or anything like that. What I want this show to be about is in knowing all of this information. And like I said, for wherever you live, you want to take a look at what they're putting out as the regulations. You want to check in with the CDC. You want to check in with the World Health Organization, and, people who know what they're talking about, not the politicians. Check in with these health organizations and scientists. Check in with science to kind of see what they're coming out with, and what is developing, and what is new about safety and things like that. And then you can make wise choices and decisions when it comes to sexual contact. The one last thing that they say is still be diligent about preventing sexually transmitted diseases. So I'm going to talk about that too in a second, because it's not, now that we're protecting ourselves from COVID-19, it's not like it's a pass from having to protect ourselves from anything else as well. So, yeah. So I do strongly believe in the separation of sexuality and morality. And I do think that the pros of having casual sex suppressed right now are going to far outweigh the cons. Those of you who are at home with someone that go at it, do your thing, be responsible, but do your thing and be human. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think for those of us out here who are single and want to develop a relationship, this is a perfect opportunity to slow down and learn how to develop emotional intimacy. And that is the crux of what this show is about. I know I took a long way around it, but I wanted us to first be really clear about what NYC.gov and the CDC are saying about, the health risks and what it actually, looks like, the landscape of it for what they know so far. So here's the journey I've been taking people on, because you guys know that I have been talking about video dating every week. And I strongly believe in video dating and how a relationship can develop from video dating, even if it's just a friendship. And I wanted to talk about the steps to take, because one thing I find with people who either haven't started doing it yet or are hesitant to do it is because they don't see anything beyond the video dating. So, they don't see, because we don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown in a lot of areas, and we don't know, there's so much uncertainty around how time is going to go. It's really hard for people to envision what the natural progression of a relationship might even be. So because that is the case, I thought what I would do is just break down the steps, or some possible steps that you could take to safely and responsibly possibly end up with the love of your life during a pandemic. You could start out, you could go into this whole situation alone, singular, by yourself, all the single ladies, all the single men, and you could come out of it with the love of your life. It is a possibility. And I'm going to give you these very simple steps because they are going to be the thing that makes it possible. So, number one, the meeting responsibly. Meeting responsibly is the very, very first step, right? This is you getting prepped for everything. Just make a choice. If you've already been online dating, Facebook dating, using social media, using LinkedIn to reach out to people, if you've already been active in that way, even before lockdown and the pandemic and sheltering in place, if you've already been doing those things, great. You're already in a peach position. You're good at it. You're comfortable with it. If you haven't been doing those things, it's time to start dipping your toe in if what you want is a relationship. So you don't have to put that desire on hold. You don't have to say, I'm going to wait till the pandemic is over. We don't know when this thing is going to be over. So don't put your life on hold. You don't have to do that. There is a way to socially responsibly still live your life. There is a way to stay healthy and preserve yourself and still live your life. That's the one thing I really want you guys to get. So if you haven't started the online dating thing, or if you did it for a while and you quit, it's worthwhile to start having an openness and a willingness to re-explore what's possible as far as meeting people online again. I'm not saying it is the most ideal possible way to meet people, but just like with video dating, if you compare it to what it's like in real life and you resist it because it's not like real life, it's going to suck and you're going to hate it and it's not going to be anything you want to do. But if you separate it out as its own thing, online dating, Facebook dating, whatever kind of social media way you can meet people, LinkedIn, if you're willing to just separate that out and let it be what it is without comparing it to what it means to actually meet someone right away in person, and you just prep yourself for that and prep yourself for doing it, even if you've done it before, doing it with a clean slate, with an open mind of how it can go. And also, as I always recommend, be healing all your past shit. So you're not putting all your emotional baggage on top of it and all of your cynicism and all of your, self-flagellation and all of your, negative thinking about people that you would be attracted to, whether it's the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever. If you don't put all that stuff on it and you work on healing that stuff and just be open to what's possible as far as online dating in this day and age, and you open yourself up to just communicating with people, just because you communicate with someone doesn't mean that you are claiming them as your forever person. Just because you have a conversation with someone doesn't mean that they are in any way indebted to be the person that you want them to be. It's just about exploration, enjoying it, having fun, take the pressure off of it. Don't make it mean a huge thing in your life. Don't make it mean life or death as far as, whether or not a person is your person. Just meet people. Just meet people casually and have fun. Like that you can do casually. Meet people online, talk to them, and, commit to keeping your distance. Choose to take your time. You can make that a choice. And if you're not someone who was doing it before, it's probably going to be the best thing that ever happened to your love life. And if you're someone who was at a standstill, you can just go baby steps. I mean, you can go really slow into this idea of talking to people, getting to know different people, sharing yourself with people, allowing people to share themselves with you, asking questions, being inquisitive, learning, growing, like we did when we were kids, right? So that's the first step, is approaching my online dating and virtual dating, digital dating in an open, non-judgmental way where I'm not comparing it to what it means to meet someone in person. Because that's not happening right now. Or if it is, it's happening minimally and it's not happening safely. So let's not do a comparison. It's not worth it. It's not going to in any way make anything better. Just look for what you can find that is possible and that is good about meeting responsibly and using digital and online, outlets to do that. Step 1. Step 2, the logistics of it all. Phone, video dating, texting, all of that stuff. I know, trust me, I'm Generation X. I fought all that stuff for a long time when it comes to intimacy, emotional intimacy with someone, because I've always said that it's false intimacy. You can't really know someone unless you're face to face. And so that's me comparing face to face with digital. And that's very disempowering when all you have is digital. And it's true. In a lot of ways, it's not the same. It's not the same experience. You don't get to know what that person smells like, what their body feels like if you hug them, things like that. It doesn't exist in digital dating and the telephone. But if you lean into what is possible with the phone and the video dating, what you get to find out is if someone is even someone that you can just have a human connective conversation with. Is it someone that I can just, flow with their pace and they can flow with my pace and we can connect on an emotional, intellectual level? And that ultimately is the most important thing anyway. Because once the sexual stuff goes, once the dick stops working and the pussy dries up and that stuff's not there anymore, you're going to want to be able to sit down and have a conversation with this person if you're looking for something long term. When there's adversity, you're going to want to be able to sit down and have a conversation with that person. And right now, what do we have if we don't have adversity? So if someone can sit down with you on a video date in a time such as now, and you can have a great conversation with them and connect on that level, on an emotional, intellectual, spiritual level, that is more valuable than whatever it is you think that you might be missing with the initial physical meeting. Because you also have to think about with those initial physical meetings that there's that whole layer of do we or don't we, as far as kissing, sex, things like that. There's that whole layer of, am I physically attracted to this person, which is an important thing, but it's not the most important thing. It's probably like number 3 on the list of priorities that we need to be looking at when it comes to sustainability. Right? It's definitely not number 1, even though a lot of people feel like it is. But then, same people who usually end up alone or unhappy. So we want to just be cognizant of that. Number 2, lean into these phone dates, these video dates, digital communication, flow with the pace of it. Plan to do this with someone that you meet online. If you guys hit it off over messaging through online dating or texting or whatever, if you hit it off that way, plan for at least a month of video dates. Meaning, don't get attached that it has to be a month, but if it's going well, plan to know that it's just going to be on video for, at the very least, a month. And just go moment by moment. It might be that you have 1 or 2 video dates a week. Or it might be that you're video dating every day. Because we got that kind of time right now. But just plan to let it go for a while and utilize that. Be with it. Sit in it. You will learn so much about yourself. You will learn so much about that person. You will learn so much about life in general. You will get practice for dating other people. If that's not your person, ultimately, you'll get practice for being with that person in case they are your person ultimately. And by the way, we don't ever know that until we, have been with somebody for decades and we look back and say, oh, wow, we did make it. No one ever knows who's going to be their forever person. You may think you do. But think about how many times you thought somebody was forever and you ended up being wrong. It's okay. That's what happens. That's life. But yeah, go with the flow. Flow with this much slower pace. It's so much nicer. And even when you have those sexual urges, take care of the sexual urges in a different way. Take care of the sexual urges yourself and just flow with this pace of like, let me just get to know, connect with this person, learn details about their life, learn who they are, talk to them, get into their brain, all that stuff. And with the video dating, you can allow yourself to be both vulnerable and creative because you can share who you are, share, what you think, your thoughts, your feelings in an honest way. And you can get creative around what you do with the dates. As you get to know each other, there's this really cute commercial. I forget what it's for. I want to say Grubhub, where it's supposed to be Common and Tiffany Haddish going out on a date, which I don't know if they ever really dated for real, or if they are dating, but they're on a video date and he orders food for both of them and has the food delivered to her house. Obviously, they've been dating a little bit on video dating, and that's the kind of thing that you can do. You got to get creative with it. Maybe do some stuff in your background. On Zoom, you can change the backgrounds and do all kinds of different things. You want to be expressive of who you are. You want to have fun with it because you can still have fun, even though it's not in person. But you got to bring the fun. And that's the other amazing thing about it is that you got to generate the fun. And those of you who are in relationships know that if you're not generating the fun, there won't be fun, at least not for you. The fun is for the person who's willing to generate it and the person who's willing to go with the flow of the other person's fun. But that takes both people to really be open to that, right? To go ahead and allow yourself to kind of be a kid in that way. Just enjoy yourself. And, that's with step number 2 with the video dating. And like I said, let it be its own thing. It's separate from live and in-person dating. Don't compare it. It's 2 different things. 2 different things that can get you to the same end if you're willing to just lean into it and be open to, what's possible. Number 3, the next step when you're in the process of video dating and getting to know someone during this pandemic is to negotiate your plans for meeting up. Like negotiate them with each other. And that can start, a few weeks in. I mean, I've had people who start talking about that at the first date if they really hit it off. But start talking about it whenever it feels comfortable, right? And this is the planning. The planning for how will we ultimately meet? What are the things that we have to be cognizant about? What are the things we have to be careful about? What are the things we have to be responsible about? How are we going to do this in the most socially responsible and safe way that we can possibly do it? Just start talking about it. And you can use this conversation as an opportunity to be practicing communication and partnership. It's just like if this wasn't a pandemic and you met someone and started dating them and then you had to take a weekend trip with them. They always say take a weekend trip with someone when you first start dating them or early on in your dating, because when you take a trip, you get to know, who somebody really is. When things need to be done, plans need to be made, things might go wrong. You get an opportunity to kind of see someone, if they can partner with you, if they can collaborate with you. Are they someone who gets mad about flat tires and things like that? Well, it's very similar with negotiating your plans for meeting up in this video dating age, right? So are they somebody who can collaborate with you? Can you have a fun conversation with this person? Can you decide on something to do that works for both of you? Is it something that aligns with your choice to be socially responsible? So if you're really committed to that and your intention is to stay socially responsible, you don't have to be influenced to put yourself at higher risk. If you're dealing with someone who's like, oh, let's just, fuck it, let's just risk it all, and that's not what you're up for, you don't have to do that. But it needs to be a conversation where you talk about what is it going to look like to sort of evolve this thing, right? And you work together, you collaborate, you both get creative, and it's amazing what can come out of partnership. This is why we want to be in relationships in the first place, right? Because there's partnership in relationships. Another person can bring to you, and you can bring to another person what's not already there as far as ideas and creativity. I'm not talking about wholeness. You're supposed to already be whole. They're supposed to already be whole. But when it comes to ideas and creativity, working together with someone, so much more can arise out of that than working alone. And this is a perfect opportunity. Let's partner on how we're going to meet up at some point and how we're going to do that in a way that works, that's socially responsible. Number 4, the 4th step is think about the long game. and continue to navigate your dating journey with this person responsibly. So let's say you designate a couple safe spaces that are, for your regular meetups or something like that. And you do get to a point where you decide to meet up and you've got your couple little safe spaces, and stick to them as long as they are safe spaces, meaning that, you can go there and still be socially distanced and you're not putting anyone else in jeopardy by going there, and that you do it minimally, because the idea is that we're staying home, right? So you don't want to be out there non-essentially all the time, any chance you get, and putting other people in danger. But, really use your head about that. Like how can I continue to navigate responsibly, even though we're now seeing each other on a regular basis, especially if you hit it off and you just adore each other and you feel like you're like, immediately having strong feelings for each other. You want to stay vigilant about both you and your new dating partner's health. You want to stay vigilant about, what is socially responsible as far as the seeing each other on a regular basis. And you want to keep practicing all the other precautions as well. So your sexual safety, all the COVID-19 precautions, you're still practicing those things, even as you're evolving into getting to know this person on a regular basis. Now, there are some articles online that are about practices for bringing someone into your home if you get to that point. But we're talking about stretching this out. So the hope, depending on how many months, I don't know. I've resolved myself to this being just possibly an unlimited thing. So I'm not looking at any particular month, and I don't mean to bring anybody down if they were hoping that we're going to be out of lockdown in a month or anything like that. I sort of feel like everything is going to be exactly what everything needs to be as far as the shifting and the flattening of the curve and all of that stuff. So I don't get too bogged down in, just hold on until, for 2 months, or just hold on for this amount of time. It's if we just live moment by moment and you're present to each moment, and, you're doing this step number 4 where you're navigating responsibly and you are seeing each other on a regular basis in a safe, socially responsible way. Don't get too bogged down and attached into exactly how you're going to plan this out for, moving in or quarantining together or all of that stuff. Just keep it moment by moment, because your gut, your instincts will tell you what to do. Things will change, things will shift, and you don't know what is possible as far as the future is concerned. And you don't want to be in that space of anxiety around it either. Just enjoy your life moment by moment, which you should be doing even when it's not a pandemic. Look for what's possible, find what feels good, and stay socially responsible. Also, just with the practicing all other precautions, the sex safety thing is very important. I want to double mention it because I also feel like sometimes when we're on heightened alert about something else, we kind of let other things fall off. If you do start having sex with someone because you've known each other long enough, neither one of you has been sick, and you're feeling like you're at a point where you want to take that risk, and you have to use condoms, you have to practice sex as safely as possible. Testing for STDs is not the highest priority for the health industry right now. You want to keep that stuff in mind. And I think I say all of that stuff just to encourage you to really drag this out. Really drag it out. I know we're all human beings and we want that contact, but yeah. And so number 5, the 5th step for evolving into a relationship during this pandemic, stay hopeful. Just because it's different than what we're used to, it doesn't automatically mean that it's worse. It's only worse if you make it worse. So most single people out there might agree that the dating landscape has been pretty shitty for a while, right? I mean, I know that's what a lot of single people that I talk to say. They don't like it. They don't like the way it looks, especially when you live in cities. There's just, too much analysis paralysis, too much to choose from. Nobody really cares about anybody. No one really is treating with anyone with very much value. And for those of us out here who want to have a real connection, this is an optimal time to catch people at their most authentic, their most vulnerable. And even the occasional fear and anxiety is an opportunity to be a support to each other. So, it's often the most long-lasting bonds are formed during adversity. Almost anybody can be around for you for the good times, but it's, in times like this, these people that we meet, this is a time where very few people can be out there just hitting it and quitting it. And, that kind of thing just doesn't work in this particular situation. And it doesn't work in the sense that, yeah, you can do it. Obviously, we all have free will. But are you a shit human being who's out there not being socially responsible or, and putting yourself at risk? Or are you somebody who is, knowing that your life is going to have to shift and adjust? And if you are, and you're willing to do that, there is a lot of possibility in being willing to shift and adjust and being willing to shift and adjust with somebody else. And this is a perfect opportunity for that because people aren't doing what they were normally doing, which is, hustling for their check and living their leisure life, however they lived it, and not making any different choices and, whatever. I could do a whole nother show about that. Anyway, this hour goes by so fast. We're almost at 50 minutes right now. And yeah, I just want to just button it all up by saying, follow these 5 steps. If you really want to find love during this pandemic, if you feel like you want to be hopeful during this pandemic, if you feel like you don't want to put your life on hold during this pandemic, which I do not suggest, it's just be more responsible, be socially responsible, be safe, be healthy. It may feel like life is on hold because you can't do all the things that you were doing before and be socially responsible. However, this is an opportunity to get creative and create things in a different way and do it in a different way. Make some shifts, do some new things. New things are great. And whatever you try to do, whatever you choose to do can be just as good as anything you were doing before, but it really takes our willingness for that to happen. 1, meet responsibly, use online. 2, phone or video date as long as you can. 3, negotiate plans for meeting up. Have that be an open conversation from the beginning. 4, or from early on, I should say. 4, continue to navigate the relationship responsibly. And 5, stay hopeful. Stay hopeful just because you can, honey. It's the choice that you can make. And, yeah. Whew. I'm all out of breath. I don't know about you guys, but I have been working out at home. I've been belly dancing. I've been trying to, keep it tight and right and stay in shape during all of this time. And Mama's a little tired this week. Anyway, that's it. I'm a matchmaker for Talkify. If you want to be included in my roster of recruits to be matched with a client for free, send me a PM on Facebook with your interest and your email, and I'll send you my recruitment link. All you have to be is single and open to being screened to go on a blind video date. And they're very wonderful. I have all these wonderful new male clients, by the way. Ladies, the menses are on Talkify, getting matchmakers and looking for you out here. So don't sleep. Get in touch with me. And men, as always, I always need more men. So, by all means. And then also every Monday night, I am leading the Epic Circle, an online healing circle for women everywhere. And every Monday night, we as women come together as a community. We cause personal transformation when it comes to communication, forgiveness, self-love, mother-daughter relationships, purpose, friendships, just all the tools we need to be as big as we were meant to be. We talk about all of it. Last week, we started talking about forgiveness and the 6 steps of forgiveness. I love steps. I love processes. Well, I should say 6 steps for forgiveness, because there's different kind of methods for doing different kind of things, but mine in particular is a very feminine energy, flowy kind of release of the past so that you can have a wonderful future by your own design. And yeah, through the rest of the month, we're going to be doing deep level forgiveness that frees the heart and the mind for healthy love, because I'm all about the healthy love. Once again, follow me on Instagram at Ask for Candy Podcast, at Candy Love Coach. I will be announcing my $50 Cash App contest. I know $50 is not much. I wish Mama had all kinds of disposable income. That's why y'all need to be subscribing on Anchor so I can start giving away more money each month. So I'm going to put the rules to the contest very soon this week. Actually, you guys can hold me accountable. I'm doing that this week. I'm going to put the rules to the contest. So, the winner each month is going to win $50 directly to their Cash App. Shout out to the Ask for Candy podcast group and the Armed Radio Group News. Please join those groups on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ask for Candy the podcast, and to catch any episodes you may have missed, subscribe on Anchor, email me askforcandypodcast@gmail.com and send me your questions and comments. They may even become upcoming topics. And that's it, my sweet, sweet loves. Until next time, never forget. And when I say never, I mean never forget. Yeah, I just burst out in song. Never forget that you are a love machine. And if you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love that you need, just make more and ask for candy. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Mwah, 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 mwah. I'll talk to you next week. Bye now.
I call my sugar